Oh, we're less than 20 minutes away from the start of trading, kicking off a new week, which will be busy with markets reacting to the U.S. Federal Reserve. Jay Powell and the U.S. Fed officials have a decision to make on interest rates. The fight against inflation has been a complicated one. We've talked about a lot of different aspects that played into inflation. Central banks being late to the party and raising interest rates, just a flood of money that came into the system during the pandemic, the supply chain issues as well. Or what about companies just getting greedy and charging more as we went through the pandemic process? Greedflation, some people have described it that way. Actually, it's the subject of a new survey by our friends at Bloomberg, who asked investors, have companies raised prices in excess of rising costs? To which 9 out of 10 respondents said, yep, that is the case, in their opinion. And when asked if profits drive inflation, should central banks keep policy tight, more than 3/4 of respondents agreed that they should. So this is an interesting time, given that a lot of people have been hoping at some point we would see central banks pivot away from higher rates. It's a complicated story. We've watched it play out here in Canada. In the meantime, though, at least for the U.S. markets, the S&P 500 has been on a roll. We've talked about the push back into a bull market. Let's get some insight and analysis from Michele Schneider. She's with MarketGauge and joins us now. Mish, nice to see you. Let's start with the Fed itself and what your expectations are for this week.
Well, I'm certainly in the camp of either a pause or a skip altogether, although I think that announcement might have been made already. So going for a pause. And the reason why is because there's been so much expectation that inflation has cooled, and also with the markets doing so well. And there is an issue with the higher the rates, the more stress it is for banks in terms of lending. So if I were them, I would certainly consider the pause, because it would give them an opportunity to sit back and see how things are progressing, because right now everything's going in their direction. No recession, right? Soft landing, yay.
Yeah, well, I wanted to ask you about that. I mean, for the mood of the market, and I know it gets skewed by technology stocks, but why do you think the S&P 500 has made its way back into a bull market?
Well, the market is generally forward thinking, right? So if we start this year out with the assumption that even if the Fed continued to hike at the rate of change they were doing, it would slow, that the economy had contracted probably enough, that tech was way undervalued, that inflation would cool, all of these things will get us to this point right now. So to me, the big question is, what is the anticipation for the next 6 months as we go into July and then the second half of the year? And it may not be quite as optimistic, but if it's not terribly pessimistic, then I think that we can continue to see more gains. But there's still very big disconnect in this market right now, and I'm still looking very closely at some of these small caps that have moved up, but certainly not what I would consider to be in a bullish phase like they're saying about the S&P using that 20%.
Well, to your point, you have some very educated strategists on Wall Street that are having healthy debates. I mentioned earlier, Goldman Sachs is expecting that the S&P 500 will continue to climb over the course of the year. Morgan Stanley, which has been pretty bearish and had a very strong call last year, but in many ways has been behind the curve this year. I guess, you know, at the center of the debate of being bullish or bearish, what has to be your fundamental belief?
Well, at this point, I think what we've really seen is that the retail investors came back into this market and they ignored all of the calls for the bad news by certain analysts. And they've been right. They followed the momentum. They followed the breakouts of the moving averages. They followed the AI-mania, so to speak. And now what I saw was so interesting is that the amount of retail investors are at a high that it was at the second half of 2021. And we know what happened in 2022, right? Now, in that case, it was the Fed coming in. So let's put them out of the equation. Really, I think we still have one area, and I know this too, and I heard you talking about it throughout the show so far, is inflation. What happens with inflation? And you can make the case of oil, that there's a lot of supply and low demand, and that's really the pinnacle of no inflation, or at least reduced inflation. Or you could take a look at supply chain issues that are happening throughout the world. in your own country, for example, the fire certainly impacted that. Lumber, I know, has been rising as a result. We have the West Coast here, the workers threatening the port strike at the ports, which would certainly affect supply chain. And then, of course, you always have those geopolitical flames that could erupt at any moment. I was reading today that the U.S. is advising people to get out of Taiwan. I'm not really sure why, but I saw that. So I guess if you put that all together, I am definitely not convinced that inflation, that's it. We've seen the end of it. It's all great. Everybody can jump back in the pool, and we're just going to continue to grow. I still think stagflation is something that's in my mind, and that's why I'm watching certain areas very carefully, like what happens with the long bonds here and what happens with the dollar, those two things in particular.
You always bring some ideas for investors to the table as well when we talk. You've got an interesting mix today. It does include some technology names, including some that have had a big run, but it also looks at some of the resource areas, which our audience is also interested in, just because you have more of a makeup in Canada. Is there a certain theme when it comes to the kinds of investments you think could be good picks going forward?
Yes, and I think if indeed this continued rally that we're seeing, particularly in the EV space, and chip space, we need basic materials to support that. So we've been looking at the companies that provide the actual raw materials for these EV stations that Tesla's now getting ready to, obviously with the deal with General Motors and with Ford, increase, and just looking at the Tesla stock itself. So things like lithium, for example, to me, that's well undervalued when you compare it to everything else. Even like Cleveland Cliff Mines, things that actually mine some of these raw materials, silver, these are still so undervalued compared to the projection and even where things are right now. So that's been a big focus. We also really like some emerging markets, and that's something that a lot of people I haven't heard talking about. Vietnam to us is one of the great opportunities as we continue to go through this year and into the next couple of years.